Greetings, I'm Rodger Newbold, and welcome to episode number 24 of Experienced Photography. My fellow photographer, my partner, my editor in this episode is Mr. Matt Rich. He's the man full of all kinds of astonishing talent. He's the man that makes all of this vlog project work. Are you there, my friend?
Sorry, no video today. In a slump.
In episode 23, we talked about getting your files organized and how absolutely important that is, and being methodical about storage requirements. I hope the advice helped keep you sane and knowing that all is well in computer land. Today is another colossal endeavor at preserving mental health. When you feel like you've been abandoned at the old Chernobyl nuclear power plant, things look terrible, but they're really not that bad. So gird up your loins and let's get started on how to save yourself from the doldrums. I want to start out with a quote from William Butler Yeats. He said, "Education is not about filling a pail, but it's about lighting a fire." And that's what I want to do today. I want to light a fire. So here we go. Lighting a fire. Well, so what? And most of all, who cares? All right. Wow! Unless I turned into the Lone Ranger overnight, there are plenty to worry about and plenty of people out there who care. I want to know, did your fire get blown out? Did you once live like you knew it all and every shot was a million seller? Then one morning the lights went out and you felt like you just lived in the cellar? Look at figure 1. When you're down and out and just feeling blue, then where do you do and where do you go and what do you do? It's not only possible, but rather probable that no matter what, someday it will happen to you. Your inspiration drowns and the big box of matches disappeared without even a clue. The pirates all ganged up and now all hope is sunk too. Look at figure 2. Then there must be something that we all can do. Well, what can cause a slump? A giant divot, a boggy sinkhole, a temporary depression in our life, and especially in our photography. I'm rather certain that just having this oversized merry-go-round world of ours has enough ups and downs to cause anyone to become totally nauseous with regularity. And there are many extenuating circumstances that can afflict us all. A rough patch at work, a big, long, extended patch of bad weather, a death of a loved one, a divorce, other major changes in our life can take a whack at our self-esteem. An unsuspecting fear of something that we cannot even immediately control that sneaks into the back of our head and throws us for a loop. Look how often it happens, right between the 17th and 18th hole, or in the 9th inning, or at the last shot at the basket with the final seconds ticking away. Smaller, unattended situations can cause a flood of mojo killers that invade our soul. Poor nutrition, lack of sleep, and I know for sure, well, a sugar rush can cause a brain fog that levels us into a stupor and adds to that long-term lethargy. Worse, it becomes the I don't care attitude. Look at 3. The mind can wreak havoc and devastation on ourselves when it's idle. We start comparing ourselves with others, and then we compare to our work to their work. Comparing yourself to your old self. What? My work isn't as good today as it was last year. Oh, I got one. Even chunkier is comparing your creative timetable to others' timetable. You know, that Ansel Adams guy, he had a major gallery show of his work when he was 20. Now, why haven't I been splashed in all of the camera magazines? And why? I mean, I'm 31, 41, or maybe 51. Good grief. Don't stew about it. Ask for help. There may be as many negative triggers as there are minds to inflict. If you have noticed or have suffered from any of these characteristics, at least you're aware that something is amiss, and you are now in a big nosedive and wondering what to do. The entire educational system should acknowledge that they've been added to the gross casualness in fostering students. They taught us to look for one right answer, to regurgitate the one thing that the book declared as correct. And then you get a good grade and you're out of the way. I'm not the first to spot this trend. You go into school as a question mark, and some years later you plop out the other end as just an exclamation mark. When we learn that if we get down to one right answer, all is well. Yet, I heard DeWitt Jones say clear back in 1985 that there was always more than one right answer. Now that's a true statement, especially photographically. So the very first thing we should do when we enter into the big spiral, take your foot off the accelerator. Don't make things worse. But put the mass on mute and evaluate your circumstances. Now, creativity and innovation expressly are not problems to be solved. They are an opportunity to be experienced. So I'm telling you what, begin by writing your morning pages. It is a pivotal tool as self-help method of discovering the immediate area of agitation. Now, this procedure suggests that we write the pages each morning about, whatever is going on in your routine. Feel free to bitch and moan. Actually, I think bitching and moaning is mandatory, but that's just my opinion. These pages are not to be shared with anybody. No matter what, take care to keep them out of the reach of prying eyes. They are not art, and they're not literature. They do not need grammar or even punctuation, but I find that they work best if you write them in longhand. You're thinking, you're writing. You are expelling pressure But, keep them down to 3 pages. Some days you feel like you'd write 50. Don't, just 3. And these are to be reread often. They lead us out of despair. The subconscious mind will shortly provide a map out of the maze. Now, don't laugh. When I heard about this, I really chuckled. But I know, I work it does it, give it your best for at least 90 days. It will guide you out of the hole. The pages will inform you if you need to, tidy up your work area or set aside a specific work studio office space, or if you need to arrange your library to be more convenient for research and recollection and study. You may find where to alter your daily routine, or if you need to take a break or a nap after lunch. I found sometimes I needed to be more like Dr. Seuss and put on a different hat and maybe write a book about a cat in a hat. I find that I had to make folders of half-baked ideas that could come back to, I could return to them. That's the right word. And they would not be totally forgotten. I found it helpful to think like a 5th grader. Thanks, Jeff Foxworthy. See how a kid would cope with the problem. Or think how maybe a rocket scientist. I found it helpful to go out and shoot like a tourist in my own town. Along with all of your things, you're already busy enough. It's almost foolish of me to ask you to take 5 minutes out of your sleep cycle to write a bunch of pages. The thing is that none of us actually take enough time to ponder. Now that's important. That's to think deeply about or contemplate what is happened or is about to happen. We just don't get the time to really wonder anymore. So many are frightened to be alone with their own thoughts. Don't be petrified to prod what is stored in that spongy gray cells in the back of your noggin. How do we discover what the annoying buzz in our brain is if we didn't even slow down long enough to inquire? I promise, these will work. Beware, you may have to rewrite your mission statement. The pages may give you permission to take soft focus images or pictures with intentional movement. You may desire to make portraits with a wide-angle lens. Who knows what else? What else has been yearning to be free for years in the back of your head? Add the pages to your bag of tricks. It can't hurt. Next one. Creativity occurs in clusters. So when the airbag just popped you in the face, and after you stop crying, then circle the wagons with like-minded people. Whether you take on a student or a new mentor or a group that you can share images and comments with, it is important for your recovery. Important to look at images. And maybe you have to be brave enough to ask for a critique. When we are blocked up, it seems to be safer to face opposition with your tribe. It's been that way for eons. The adversary may be imagined or it may be real, but we must overcome it to be able to move on. And how is that possible? When you form an alliance, remember the goal is to get out and make pictures again. Now, one sure way is to lose interest or face that creative impasse is not to have someone to share your images with. Set a team goal to get out and shoot and share. It's stimulating. It's the act of doing, even when you don't feel like doing something. It can easily restore feeling back to the numb. There are activities that you may not feel like engaging in. But once you start, it gets rather explosive. Now, Alexander III of Macedonia, he became a great general. And he never lost a battle with all of his tribe or his buddies bustling around on elephants. In the winter of 333 BC, he took up quarters in a town called Gordium. There he hears about this town's legend of the Gordian knot. A prophecy stated that whoever was to be able to untie this very complicated knot would become king of all of Asia. So he was taken to the knot. He carefully studies the big mass. He can't see any visible ends showing. Man, is he stymied. Unable to untie the knot, he pulls out his sword and he cuts the knot in half. Now, Asia was fated to him, and thus we found out the best antidote for worry is work. Just do it. Gather up with your cluster. Make some images. Stick with the people who pull the magic out of you and not the madness. Become the next Alexander the Great or whoever you are. After decades of teaching, I came into an important realization that there are many ups and downs along the way. Hey, that's just par for the course. We need to be refueled. Don't let your well run dry. Don't let it stagnate. Don't become useless. Here's another thing. I found the practice of the artist's date. What's that? It becomes vital in recharging and adding new inspiration to a downtrodden spirit. This entails attending some manner of artistic event, and you do it alone. You're making notes, you're shooting with your phone only. Boil up some new ideas. Now, this sounds cruel to do it alone, but for sanity's sake, you send out, you reconnoiter, you evaluate what you see, you study the artistic experience alone. What did you learn? The date gives your mind a rest. It allows you the freedom to think of new ideas and how you can do something in that vein without copying. You can contemplate a different approach or begin a new body of work without the anxiety and pressure of having others standing around waiting for you. Hey, come on, hurry up. It can't work that way. You've got to be alone. Do not think of a slump as a failure. It is simply an aspect of learning, growing, reinventing yourself, which artists are just constantly doing. Take a look at number 5, figure 5. This being out on an artist date. Here's another thing. Rules are generated to help keep things organized and flowing smoothly so you don't crash into each other. They try to make things easier and safer for everyone. But as far as creating art, rules are absolutely some kind of nonsense. We don't have to be told how we can or should hold a camera. If we want to hold it over our head and make photographs backwards, who's to correct us? If Salvador Dali wants to hold a paintbrush in his teeth, well, best wishes. If Renoir could paint with brushes bandaged to his hands, hooray for conquering a problem. Climbing out of a rut sometimes takes both hands, and thinking outside of the box is always important. How do you think we got from pictorialism to digital imaging? Often we follow rules without even the foggiest idea of knowing why. When asked why this young lady cut the legs off her turkey at Thanksgiving time, she replied, "Because my mom said to." What? She never questioned, "Why, Mom, do you cut the legs off your turkey?" The rule originated from Grandma. She had an oven that was simply too small to accommodate a full-size turkey. Now, 2 generations have passed, and being hampered by a problem that had become thoroughly outdated. So here's the next one. Periodically, you've got to inspect your sacred cows, your beliefs, to see if you are contributing your apprehensions and consuming vital energies that have nothing to do with artistic production. You know, why is not a 4-letter word, and it certainly should be used more often. Now, when studying the print of the bovine seen in figure 5, it was noticed that the image was a compilation of many fragments to form a whole. Now, many different artists have made work in similar manner to break free from any binding rules of, hey, this is how you got to do it. When you're making images, you're trying to rocket beyond the slump. Do something new. Do something different. Do something your own way. There's no great anchor tethering you to the ground. Explode out and design a new way to work. Let's take a look at some examples. First one is Chuck Close, an artist, in image A. Then Chuck Close in image B. Chuck Close in image C. Then Jacqueline Morby. Susanna Blasco. A good friend of ours, Hiroshi Kamaya. Lastly, one of Matt that I did of him. We make a great start at breaking free. I'm sorry. Our time is up right now. But we're going to pick up right here, right at this point in episode 25, which is going to be part 2 of escaping the atmosphere of inflexibility. Now, Matt and I hope you have we have provided you some solid information that will boost you and your friends. You know, let your friends know where to tune in to get experienced information. Click to subscribe. Give us a big thumbs up, you know. Now, keep smiling. Stay alive for 25. We'll see you right here on screen real soon again. Thank you, my friends. A tip of my hat to you, and cheerio.